David Cervantes had grown up in the heart of Los Angeles, where the streets were paved with ambition, greed, and a code of survival few understood. He was a product of the streets, a gangster by association and choice, climbing the criminal ladder in a city where loyalty and power were everything. He didn't ask for this life, but the choices of his youth had led him here. He was known as El Lobo in the underworld, a nickname that came from his reputation. Quick, ruthless, and silent like the predator he'd become. His days were spent negotiating deals, enforcing debts, and keeping the family business strong, all while walking a thin line between life and death. But fate has a way of upending even the most carefully laid plans, and David's world was about to collide with one that could not be more different. It was late spring when David first heard about June Turner. His crew had been sent on a business trip to the Appalachian foothills in West Virginia, a quiet area far from the chaos of LA, to facilitate a deal involving property and land. The job was simple enough, but when David laid eyes on June, everything became complicated. David hadn't planned on meeting anyone, but June was different. She was sweet in a way that made him feel vulnerable, like a flower growing in a field of fire. When he walked into the small diner that morning, the first thing he noticed was her. She wasn't like the women from LA, flashing bright smiles and wearing makeup that screamed for attention. June had a quiet elegance, the kind that came from waking up at dawn and working the land, not from trying to impress anyone. Her skin was sun-kissed from the long hours outside, and her green eyes carried a softness that David had only seen in rare moments. Moments when he let his guard down, which didn't happen often. June worked at the diner, helping her father out with the business. The Turner family had lived in the area for generations. Their farm, nestled on the outskirts of a small town that was far removed from the pulse of the city. Her life was simple: work the land, help her father, and keep to herself. But David's arrival disrupted that simplicity in a way she never anticipated.
Coffee, sir?
Yeah, sure, black.
As she turned to walk away, he caught a glimpse of her worn boots and the calluses on her hands. This was a woman who worked hard, who had a life that demanded strength and resilience. There was something in that, something that intrigued him. In this small diner, worlds apart from the bustling streets of LA, David found himself drawn into a new chapter of his life. It wasn't long before their worlds started to intertwine. The deal David was there to negotiate had gone smoother than expected, but he found himself returning to the diner not for business, but to see June. At first, it was just casual. He'd stop by for coffee or pie, chatting with her about the weather or the town. But as days passed, he realized he was looking forward to those moments more than anything else. There was something disarming about her kindness, her innocence. June was everything the city was not: pure, untainted, with a heart that hadn't been broken by the brutal realities of the world. But life had a way of reminding them that their worlds didn't belong together. June had no idea who David truly was. To her, he was just a man passing through. A stranger with a dangerous edge, sure, but a stranger nonetheless. But David couldn't hide forever. He wasn't just a businessman. He was tied to the underworld. His every move was watched, and his past was a shadow he couldn't outrun. One evening, as David sat at the bar, he overheard a conversation between some local thugs he had dealt with before. They were planning something involving June's farm. He didn't know the specifics yet, but it was enough to send his mind racing. His first instinct was to protect her, but he knew that revealing who he really was could destroy everything between them. The next day, David found a way to warn June without exposing too much. He dropped by the diner as usual, sitting at the counter and sipping his coffee. June was cleaning glasses, humming softly to herself, and David hesitated before speaking.
You ever thought about leaving here?
Leave here? Why would I want to leave? This is home.
Home can be a dangerous place, June.
What do you mean?
Someone's been talking about your farm. There's a group from the city. They're looking to take it.
What? Why?
It's not about why, it's about power and money. You don't have to worry about it. I'm handling it.
David, what are you not telling me?
I'm not just here to negotiate land deals. I've got a history that involves a lot of people who don't take kindly to anything standing in their way. I'm trying to protect you, but
But what?
yes, I'm involved in things I wish I could walk away from, but the truth is it's not that simple. And now I've put you in danger too.
For a moment, June just stared at him, trying to process what he had just revealed. Her heart ached for him, for the pain she saw in his eyes. He wasn't just the dangerous man she had imagined. He was someone who had been forced into a world he didn't belong in. And yet he was here trying to protect her, trying to...
I don't know what to say. This is all too much. I don't know how to help you.
You don't need to help me, just stay safe. That's all I want for you.
The days that followed were tense. David took matters into his own hands, eliminating the threats one by one, but his involvement only put June further at risk. He was falling deeper into the world of crime, a world that had no place for someone as innocent as her. He knew that if he stayed, he would drag her down with him, but leaving her meant losing her forever. It all came to a head one night when the gangsters who had been after June's farm finally made their move. David had been ready for this, but he couldn't have predicted that June, stubborn and headstrong as she was, would find herself caught in the middle.
Get inside, June.
No, David, I'm not running. Not anymore.
In that moment, David realized something that had been clear from the start, but that he had been too afraid to admit. He couldn't protect her from everything, but he could love her, and he would fight for her, no matter what it took.
Are you okay?
I will be. I think I'm ready to fight for this too, for us.
David smiled, and for the first time in a long while, it was a real smile. A smile that said he might finally have found his place in the world, not in the streets of LA, but in a quiet farm with a woman who had changed everything. In the weeks that followed, David and June faced many challenges. His past would always follow him, and the danger of his world never fully disappeared. But they faced it together. They found a way to build something new, something that blended the strength of June's innocence with the resilience of David's experience. They were two people from different worlds, but in the end, love had the power to unite them. And no matter what obstacles came their way, they knew they had each other.